just would like to give a special thank you to one of my subscribers and one of my cozy community members. Her name is Lynette, and she sent me just the sweetest email today saying she's loving the reading, and it meant so much. So thank you, Lynette. I appreciate you, and I hope that you'll like chapter 7. Quick recap. So just for those, maybe some of you who haven't been listening along, this is a history of murder. It's the first book in the Jericho Falls Cozy Mysteries. And Chloe Martin is our main character. She's returned to the town where she used to spend summers, and she doesn't really want to be there. Her grandmother has tricked her in a way to get her there. And once she gets there, Grandma's boyfriend has been murdered. Grandma is a prime suspect. Chloe is understandably very worried, and she's determined to find out who actually killed Art McMillan and get Grandma in the clear. Last chapter, she had a run-in with the chief of police, who she had met at the beginning of the book, and has seen Art's house and really has learned nothing. She's at a standstill. She doesn't know what to do. So we're going to start with chapter 7 today, which is titled Generation After Generation. When I returned to Jericho House with Jed in tow, Elliot puffed up his spine and let out a little hiss. "Elliot, be a good kitty cat host," I said, petting him under the chin. He and Jed began sniffing and sizing each other up. Jed's tail was wagging rapidly, and Elliot seemed at least a little more at ease. They were going to be fine once they got acquainted. Just then, I heard a noise from the parlor. "Grandma?" I called. She was sitting in a wingback chair, gazing into a dark, empty fireplace. I was relieved to see her there, worried on my drive home that Officer Porter might not bring her back as quickly as Chief Garner asked. But when I got a good look at her, I gasped. She didn't look well at all. She had taken out her signature ponytail, and her hair looked like it needed to be brushed. Her tortoiseshell glasses and a few crumpled tissues were in her hand. Smudges ringed her amber eyes. Why hadn't I noticed she was still wearing pink fuzzy slippers before she left with Officer Porter? She must have been so embarrassed. I went closer. "Can I get you anything?" When she looked up at me, I saw defeat in her eyes. "I should never have done it," she sobbed. "I'm in over my head." "Come here," I said, sitting on the couch and motioning for her to join me. "Let's relax." She breathed deeply. "There's something I need to tell you, dear." "What is it?" I asked, raising my brows. "It's about Art." I smiled. I bet I knew where this was going. "I think I know. You two were pretty serious, right? I wish you would have told me, but it's not a big deal." Elliot meowed loudly. It sounded like he wailed, "No." He skulked around the couch with his tail twitching. Grandma Lily gave me a sad look, a long blink, and then shook her head. "That's not it," she softly said. "I'm so sorry he's gone," I told her. "I could tell you really loved him." "Loved him?" She laughed without humor. I hated that man." A combination of shock and dread sank over me. "What do you mean?" I whispered. My mouth went dry. "It's a long and complicated story," she replied. As if noticing Jed for the first time, Grandma's eyes lit up, and she called him to her. He came running and stood with his front paws on her lap. He licked her cheek while she stroked his back. "Are you hungry, boy? I bet you'd settle for some cat food for now," she said. "Let's go see what we can find." And the two of them trotted off towards the kitchen. "Wait a minute," I called after her. "Aren't you going to explain?" "I'll make tea and feed the animals first," Grandma Lily replied, clearly stalling. I waited impatiently, wondering what was going on with her. First, she fakes an illness to lure me back here. Then her boyfriend dies, and she gets hauled off to the police station. Now this revelation that she hated the man? I was beginning to question her sanity. One thing was for sure. She better stop this nonsense before Chief Garner questioned her, or she'd be done for. I wondered when it would be. Would he come here? The very thought of him gave me goosebumps. I remembered how he smelled, his blonde hair in the backyard sunshine, and how he looked at me when talking about my friend Christy. I liked him, but who was I kidding? He probably thought I was a complete basket case. I began wandering around our big house again as I had on my first day back. I traced the banister with my fingers and thought of the hundreds of times I'd been up and down these stairs. As a matter of fact, most of my family had done the same thing. Proof of it was everywhere, in the photos framed on the walls and in the height chart on the landing where 4 generations of Martins had their growth tracked. The fact that we'd been here for generation after generation was comforting. These were the walls that knew, recorded even, our life stories. I ventured down the short hallway behind the main staircase. 2 small bedrooms and 1 large closet were in this dead-end corridor. It was dark in this corridor, without windows, and I remembered being too scared to enter without an adult when I was little. It was originally the servants' quarters, though Grandma and Grandpa had each used a bedroom as office space ever since I could remember. I was 10 when my grandpa passed away, and in recent years his office had become a catch-all. It was where Grandma stowed the Christmas decorations and her annual yard sale signs. Grandma Lily continued to use her office to run the daily operations of home tours and events. I noticed that Grandma's office door was ajar. I pushed it inwards for a better look. When I flipped on the light, it made me gasp. The room was a wreck. Papers were on the desk and seemingly thrown around the room. I thought of Art's house. Did the same person do this? Someone might have come in while we were both out. The thought was disturbing. Without scaring her, I had to know if this was how she left things, which was concerning itself, or if someone had been here. I went to the kitchen to find her. "Grandma, I don't know how to tell you this, but your office is a mess," I said. "And what, my dear, were you doing in my office?" she chided. I was happy to see a little of her usual spunk returning to her mannerisms. She was alternately petting the dog and then the cat while they ate. "You know, you could go paperless, clear some of that clutter," I suggested. "I'm too old to change my methods now." She flipped her hand in the air. "It's worked this long." I just went for it. "Do you always have so many papers everywhere, all over your desk and the floor?" She chuckled and wound her hair into a clip at the nape of her neck. "You sound like Art." She rolled her eyes. All right, if she wasn't worried, I'd let it go. Jed finished the bowl of cat food, turned 3 circles on the rug, and lay down. Instantly, his eyes closed. "His belly's full, so he's ready for a siesta," Grandma Lily smiled. "I'm glad he's here with us now." "Why did you name him Jed?" She met my gaze. "You noticed his tag?" I nodded. "I suppose I wanted someone I admired to keep an eye on him." "Him?" I asked. Which him did she mean? "Art," she said. "Okay, Grandma, your time is up. You've got to tell me what's going on." Art McMillan was a very, very bad man. I set out to teach him a lesson, but it seems someone else has beaten me to it. All right, that does it for Chapter 7. It's kind of a little teaser there. Chapter 8 is going to be fun when we hear about what Art McMillan was up to. So I hope you'll join me then. In the meantime, if you'd like to pick up your own copy of either the paperback or the ebook, ebooks are available anywhere ebooks are sold, paperback on Amazon, and all the links are below. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you on Chapter 8. Bye-bye.